WCNC Charlotte News at 6.
Right now at 6 o'clock, thousands of people here in the Charlotte area and across the country rallied at No Kings protest, speaking out against the Trump administration. Thank you so much for joining us on WCNC Plus at 6 o'clock. I'm Siobhan Riley. We started uptown where hundreds gathered at First Ward Park, some with signs, others with drums, but they all carried something personal. They took their message to the streets of uptown. For many, this wasn't just a protest, it was a declaration. Their reasons for showing up may have been different, but their mission all the same.
No one is saying that we shouldn't have strong borders and that we shouldn't get criminals out, but they're taking U.S. citizens. They're taking people legally allowed to be here.
The majority of people are not happy with the policies of the Trump administration and his push towards authoritarianism.
I think more and more people are going to continue to mobilize.
And many at that protest say their silence has cost far too much for far too long. Now they are calling for change, not just in policy, but in leadership. And these protests also happening in Iredell County this afternoon. WCNC Charlotte's Bria Smith heard from people who came out sharing why they're speaking out against the Trump administration.
The sound of courage met with the sound of hope. A sign that fulfills the Statesville No Kings protest event organizers' overall goal.
To see and be seen.
While some stood on the corners of Front and Center streets holding up their opposing beliefs, Peggy Palmer, protest organizer, says she's glad people kept community in mind.
We all believe in the Constitution. We love our system of government, and we don't want to see it dismantled. You know, we want to keep things not the way they are. We want to improve, and we want to have a more progressive agenda that pulls in more people.
Some protesters say Saturday's demonstration meant everything to them due to the sacrifices their families have made.
Most people are privileged and they don't realize that. They grew up having everything. Our people sacrificed everything just to come here to give us a better life, and they don't know what that feels like.
The protests remained at the heart of Statesville from 11 a.m. to 1 in the afternoon, where a mixture of concerns were expressed for the future and present-day America.
We have a lot to protect here, that we do not need the dismantling of the Department of Education. Special needs services such as speech therapy and occupational therapy, a lot of insurances do not cover those services, and people who can afford them are still paying thousands of dollars out of pocket. So those who are living in the poverty level, definitely their children are going to miss out on early intervention services, which could help their child succeed in the future. These are our future citizens of this state and this country.
We were a lot younger, but now we're actually the age where we're allowed to speak our voices, be the people out there protesting, showing our point of view. Like, I just think it makes it that much more better because we're actually here and we're able to do something now. And like, having had lived what we lived when we were little, that fear, we're using that fear here to show up and be the voice for the people that can't use their voice.
Protesters all throughout Front and Center streets say their hope is that events like this can serve as a platform for justice for all. In Statesville, Bria Smith, WCNC Charlotte.
And WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre traveled to several cities in the Carolinas and shows us the demonstrations there.
From the streets of Waxhaw to Monroe to Rock Hill, South Carolina, the message has been growing with every mile, and the voice is getting louder with folks demanding change. The No Kings movement is more than a slogan.
This administration is pushing too many boundaries.
Supporters came with signs, chants, and convictions.
Love, not hate, makes America great.
From cities to small towns, a growing wave of voices pushing back against power they say don't represent them.
Immigration is a big one. The cuts to all of the federal government, the agencies, and the lack of accountability for the President of the United States.
Supporters say this is a fight for democracy, and they're fighting back against what they are calling political overreach.
Now, our president has unleashed the military in one of our nation's largest cities. He has given the military the ability to arrest civilians. as a freedom-loving patriot. That scares people.
What matters to me is just that people are treated with dignity and that they get their chance to have due process and just treated right.
The protest in Waxhaw and Monroe Union County.
No Kings!
Drawing hundreds. Over in Rock Hill, thousands, all united under one mission.
You know, we have diversity out here. We have every walk of life out here. We have people who want to fight for our country and our rights.
Jessie Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
We brought you live coverage of these rallies and other rallies across the country live all afternoon inside the WCNC Plus app. Be sure to download it so you don't miss live breaking coverage as it happens. And time now for your weather forecast. Meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees joining us live. Brittany, it has been hot and humid all day. What can we expect for Father's Day?
Well, more of the same, Siobhan. It is really just that pattern this time of year. The thing that we've really lacked a lot today and yesterday today compared to yesterday and the day before is as much flooding potential. There haven't been as many storms. Right now, though, it is extremely sticky. 86, dew point 71. Anything above 70 is disgusting. That is that air you can wear. And of course, that's why it's 86, but it currently feels like 91. More of the same expected tomorrow. And within that summer pattern, we know what happens. You have isolated storms. Not everybody sees them, but the ones that do have a really significant impacts here. So let's talk about Caldwell County right now, where we have this severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect right now going until 6:15. Main impact here, 60-mile-per-hour winds. There's extremely small hail embedded within this, around pea size. So that's good news when it comes to damage. But remember, about 90% of our damage from storms comes from some kind of wind gust damage here in the Carolinas. So these areas, northern Alexander County, as this pushes off toward the east, need to be especially wary of this. I do want to show you one important thing that we look at actually as meteorologists when it comes to strengthening or diminishing of storms, and that's an increase in lightning strikes. 45 right now, but I actually looked about 30 minutes or so ago, and there are about 3 lightning strikes here. So again, one of the reasons why we look at this is because that large burst oftentimes means that there's some kind of strengthening. So if you live in any of these areas here, we're going to put them on for you. Ellendale within the next 5 to 10 minutes, Little River around 6:15, Taylorsville just before 6:30, Millersville around the same time frame, and then eventually toward Fairview Park and Oxford Park between about 6:40 and 6:55. Now you can plus or minus about 5 minutes here. Again, this is just an estimate, but any of these areas, northern Alexander County and even those northern parts there too of Iredell County, definitely need to make sure you're keeping a close eye on the storm as it continues that north or that easterly and southeasterly movement, going very slowly, but so far not a significant flood risk because these areas thankfully weren't as impacted from the storms over the last few days. Now, as we look a little bit further west, of course, this is normally the activity we're going to track. So this little piece of energy, something I'll be watching as it pushes eastward, that's in Tennessee. But these storms, this big, large MCS actually just east of Atlanta right now, that's likely going to continue its eastward trek and probably impact portions of the upstate by about 10-11 p.m. But it does look to stay just south of us here in Charlotte. So here's Futurecast for the rest of this evening. Again, the best chance to see an isolated thunderstorm will remain those areas north of I-40. Few light showers out there Sunday morning, more of a mostly cloudy start. I do think Sunday has a slightly better chance of seeing storms down across the Piedmont. It looks like these storms travel a little bit further south. Notice the time frame here though, mostly after 5. So I think your Father's Day plans, if you do have them tomorrow, should be pretty much good to go, especially if you're in areas Charlotte and south, but I would watch for those storms after 5, and then definitely some storms in the mountains as they're a little bit closer to where that low pressure system is right now. So here's that hourly forecast. We're looking at 70s to start, 80s to end. Certainly going to see some isolated thunderstorm potential mainly after 5 o'clock, but it's not going to be a washout by any stretch of the imagination. Next really big change in the forecast comes late next week as we'll be tracking a lot of warmth. Remember, when you look at these colors, this is not how high above average it's going to be. It's the confidence that temperatures will be above average. So with that being said, we've only seen one temperature so far this year reach at or above 90. That is going to change by the middle and end of next week. With that being said, on top of just the heat, the moisture is sticking around. So what do you get when you combine the two? Well, elevated heat index values. We could see our first 100 degrees or higher heat index values of the year so far. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, we see storms, of course, almost every single afternoon of summer. We see heat index values, upper 90s, lower 100s, almost every single day of summer. You're absolutely correct. However, sometimes that first time catches us off guard, and with kids in summer camp, being out of school, things like that, we want to make sure you're staying alert to the forecast. Here is that 7-day. You can see again Father's Day tomorrow, upper 80s, few showers and thunderstorms. No crazy rain chances for the upcoming week, but a lot of heat starting Wednesday and beyond into the end of the week as we'll be tracking a lot of days, 90 or more.
Hot, hot, hot. Thanks so much for keeping us updated. In just minutes, President Donald Trump's military parade will get underway in Washington, D.C., marking the Army's 250th anniversary. This is a live look at the setup for that big event. The parade is set to feature more than 6,000 soldiers. NBC's Jay Gray has the latest from the nation's capital.
Good evening. Hundreds of thousands gathered here in the nation's capital for what is a very big day under tight security. Streets locked down, police, federal agents on the ground, all part of the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. The celebration includes a parade, 6,600 military personnel marching, and we've got 50 aircraft from the military in a flyover if the weather holds on for that. And then 150 military vehicles through the streets of Washington, D.C. As that party goes on, protests go on as well. Refuse Fascism, a big group that is marching here in D.C., marching through the streets and trying to draw attention to what they say are poor policies by this Trump White House. We also have protests across the country, every state with no King's rallies, and all of those to this point have been peaceful. The day ends here with a concert and fireworks as the protests continue across the country. That's the latest from here in Washington. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News.
All right, and we will have live coverage of the parade live on WCNC Plus as soon as it gets started. And now to breaking news in the aftermath of the Uptown protests. CMPD telling us moments ago that 2 people were arrested during those protests, charged with assault on a law enforcement officer. Police also tell us just after 2 o'clock this afternoon, a small group of protesters were sprayed with pepper spray. 1 person was taken to the hospital. And right now, as we speak, a manhunt is underway in Minnesota after 2 lawmakers were shot and 1 was killed. The shootings happened in 2 suburbs in Minneapolis. Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed, and Senator John Huffman was seriously hurt. Authorities identified the suspect as 57-year-old Vance Bolter. They say he may still be in the Minneapolis area and is considered armed and dangerous.
Our state lost a great leader, and I lost the dearest of friends. Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service. She was a formidable public servant, a fixture and a giant in Minnesota. She woke up every day determined to make this state a better place. She is irreplaceable, and we've been missed by so many.
And police found a manifesto in the suspect's SUV that identified several lawmakers and other officials. Those named in the manifesto have been provided security. And we want to clarify a story you saw here on WCNC Charlotte last night. A federal judge dismissed some claims made by the family of Shanquilla Robinson in their lawsuit against the FBI and State Department. Now, her mother was suing for $100 million in damages in connection to her daughter's death while on a trip to Mexico back in 2022. Family attorney Sue Ann Robinson says the dismissal of certain claims was expected. No arrests have been made in this case. A drunk driver hit and killed a rare horse at the Outer Banks this morning. The Currituck County Sheriff's Office says the driver hit the horse near Nag's Head just after midnight. We're told the 5-year-old stallion is part of a critically endangered population. And a fiery crash led to an overpass collapsing in South Carolina. Local authorities say they responded to the I-20 overpass in Aiken County around 4 o'clock this morning. A tractor trailer carrying gasoline was found on fire at the scene once crews arrived. South Carolina DOT says it will take several months to repair that overpass. And happening right now in downtown Lancaster, South Carolina, crowds are gathering for the start of Juneteenth Freedom Weekend celebration. This is a Day 2 event honoring African American history and culture. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King joins us live right now, where people are taking in on all of the fun. Anna?
Yeah, that's right, Siobhan. If you take a look behind me, the Main Street area here is already filled with families, vendors, and the live music. The Juneteenth Freedom Weekend celebration officially started yesterday and will go through today until around 10 p.m. Now, there are more than 30 vendors here, everything from soul food and handmade jewelry to local nonprofits offering community resources. Now, organizers say this is about education, reflection, and joy, bringing the Lancaster community together.
Definitely, to me, it's just a blessing to be able to see that we have all nationalities coming together to celebrate our festival. I'm more grateful this year that Lancaster County left the American flag flying, because the history of Juneteenth is American history.
And organizers told us they are expecting a record turnout this year. So coming up here in the later shows, we will hear from more visitors or attendees on why the celebration is so important to them. For now, here live in Lancaster, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
Looks like a fun celebration. It looks like people are having a great time. Thank you so much for that, Anna. And that does it for us at 6 o'clock. And we certainly hope all of the dads out there have a great Father's Day weekend. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.